Hi, I'm Jessica from the CE Coaches, and I am here to teach you everything you wanted to know about beta readers. We're going to talk about where to find them, what they are, what they do, how to ask them to do it for you, how to break up with them if they aren't the right beta reader for you. So why don't we go ahead and get things started? All right. So again, this is Finding and Working with Beta Readers. I'm Jessica, and we're going to go ahead and talk about what a beta reader really is. So a beta reader is the final person you send your work to. It's your test reader, right? It's as close as you can get to a person in the bookstore as a person in the bookstore, right? Like it's your last line of defense. So it's a person who reads an early draft of your work and provides candid feedback. Beta readers are not editors. That's important to know, and they are not critique partners. So editors are paid professionals who actually know the industry. They know the beats and the storylines of your particular genre. They bring expertise to it. They may offer suggestions and they may offer fixes. Critique partners are people who are other writers. A beta reader does not necessarily have to be a writer. They just need to be a reader. But a critique partner is another writer who you are actually swapping work with on a regular basis, and you are offering edits to each other. You're offering solutions, you're offering feedback. It's a very different thing, a beta reader, than an editor or a critique partner. The qualities that make a good beta reader are they are avid readers, right? So these are people who love books. And if they love the book of your genre, that's even better because they're going to know if something feels wrong. Like if you're a romance writer and you have an avid romance reader, then they're going to know if like you miss a romance beat, right? They're going to feel it. They may not know that's what happened, but they'll be like, ooh, something feels off here. And that's the type of feedback that's helpful to you. The other thing is you want a beta reader who you value and trust their opinions. Don't ask someone to do it if you don't listen to their advice on other things, right? Like these are people who are investing time and energy into your project. And so if you don't take their advice in other areas, it's not a good use of your time or their time to ask it here. It helps if they're familiar with your genre, but it's not necessary. But if they are familiar with your genre, you're going to get a different type of feedback, probably. Good judgment. And I just noticed it looks like a spelling error on my slide. So that's great. And then also tact. People who are new to the critique process, and beta reading is a form of critique, they often are super excited, right? They're very exuberant, and they should be able to provide information in a way that is direct, but also without completely obliterating you emotionally. So if this is a person who emotionally has devastated you in the past by how they deliver feedback, probably not the best choice for the right beta reader for this project. How do you know if it's time for a beta reader? Well, you've done everything you can to make this work as good as you can, right? You've done everything and you've lost all objectivity, right? You're just moving commas around, you're moving periods around, you don't know you can't see the story objectively anymore, right? You're just too close to it. That's when it's time to start pulling in other sets of eyes. Beta readers are good to do as like test readers before you're getting ready to send it out for publication or for public consumption, right? So if you're either going traditional route where you're sending it out for submission to agents, you could use a beta reader right before that as kind of like a final note of, is this playing the way I want it to? Or if you're an indie publisher, a beta reader is great before you actually put it out for sale to the public at large. And if you are an indie author, beta readers, like they love it, right? Like it's a secret part of the process and they get super excited about it. So it's a good way to build like loyalty with your fan base too. How do you find these elusive beta readers? Well, the first and most important thing is you actually have to say you are a writer out loud. You start by owning your identity as a writer. And for many, many writers, I know they're introverts. They claim to be introverts. Some of them are so secretive about their writing because they don't want to have their hopes dashed, right? But if the goal is to write for public consumption, you have to admit out loud to somebody that you're a writer. If you haven't done that yet, a great way to practice is by like an Uber or a Lyft driver. And when somebody asks, what do? You say, oh, I'm a writer. And then you're never going to see that person again, right? Like try these words out on people you're never going to see again. Another place to own it is in your social media handles, in your bio, right? Like I am a writer. There's a lot of power that comes with owning the identity of writer. And the sooner you accept the title, the sooner you can accept the power that comes with it, right? Furthermore, for finding beta readers, if people don't know you're a writer, they don't know that you have something to read. Like they don't have anything to ask about. They don't even know. It's a total surprise to them. So you have to start admitting publicly you're a writer to start finding your beta readers because they're going to come from everywhere, anywhere, everywhere. I find my beta readers at my Pilates studio. Okay. You can find beta readers at church. You can find beta readers at work. You can find beta readers at your favorite coffee shop, brewery, the library. You can find beta readers anywhere you go on a regular basis. And the best thing about beta readers is they do not have to be writers. Again, they just need to be someone who is interested in what you're doing, who is able and willing to provide feedback and has the time to do it for you, right? What I love about finding people who are tangential acquaintances to you is they do not know you intimately. And that's really important because when we write our story, if our brother reads it, he knows that in third grade you fell down and broke your nose, and that's why your nose is crooked, and that's why you gave your character a crooked nose, right? He's going to read all this stuff into it, but the person in my Pilates class who I just see once a week while our teacher is torturing us and making us do things like this, um, all she knows is what I've told her. And she doesn't know about my third grade nose break or, the boy I used to be in love with, who this whole entire book is based on that relationship. They are as close to a reader in a bookstore who knows nothing about me, who can give me candid, valid opinions without reading our relationship into it as I can find, right? And that's what makes the beta reader great is the objectivity that they're offering you. So anywhere that you go on a regular basis where you have admitted to people you're a writer and they show an interest, those are potential beta readers for you. You can also find beta readers online, right? I promise not everybody online is crazy. I have made real life, honest to God friends online. I've traveled to Australia from Kansas City and stayed at somebody who I met on the internet and I didn't get murdered and she's wonderful and her book is out right now. So you can meet people online. One place you could go is forthewords.com. So For the Words is a writing game site and they have community chat boards, right? So if you're trying to up your word count, there's a free version of For the Words. Go over and check it out and then check out their community forums. Online conferences like writehive.org. I just presented at the Nebulas, which is the Science Fiction Writers Association, and they have an online way to attend, right? So that ties in the online conferences and the professional organizations. You can find beta readers online in other writers. And what I recommend is you get a mix of just readers and writers when you do it. So this is a good place to find other writers who can give you feedback on your work. How do you do it? How do you ask somebody? So you've gone to your coffee shop every day and they see you typing away on your computer and they're like, oh my gosh, how's the book coming? And then one day you're like, I finished a draft. That's what you tell the barista. And she's so excited, right? She's like, oh my gosh, I've been like rooting for you. And if this is the person that you have talked about books before, or you talked about movies and TV shows, and they seem like educated and you like their take on stuff, and they have some good points when you don't like something, that's a really good potential person. And so if you have found those type of conversations with one of these tangential periphery people, this is a script that you can use to talk to them. You can say, I enjoy talking about books or movies or screenplays or whatever it is that's along the creation line with you. And I really value your opinion. Your insights could really help me polish the final version of my book before it's published. Would you be interested in being a test reader for me? So use the word test reader with non-writers because they don't understand what a beta reader is. But for writers, you can say beta read and they'll understand what that is more. Most of the time, they're like super excited because it's like so fun to be in the back, like, behind the scenes. They think it's really neat. If you want to know more about how to work with beta readers, these are two great resources, right? John Cleese wrote the book Creativity. It's very short. It's like a super tiny book, but he has a section in there about how to ask for feedback, and it's like 2 pages and it's absolutely brilliant. So I recommend that. And then How to Work with a Writer. That's a great book. I think it's been actually republished by a different publisher under a different name, and that's in the Q&A additional supplemental material that I have for you. So if you can't find this title, check the supplemental material for a different name. But the How to Work with a Writer is really more specific to like editors and industry professionals. So that's like if you wanted to go really, really deep dive, but it does give you some great hints and tips. So you found a person, your local barista is like, yes, I'd totally love to do that. I love reading books. What you want to do is you want to take ownership. You want to claim your power as the writer, and you want to steer this whole entire process, right? So your barista, who's not a writer, has no idea what to expect for a beta reading process. Your other writers are procrastinators because that's inherently hardwired into our DNA apparently. So you need to give them some parameters, including deadlines. So the first thing you want to do is you want to tell them, I think it's going to take about this long to read. And if you just Google average reading time for a person, it'll tell you math it and then go ahead and add like at least another 2 hours, right? Tell them the deadline that you're hoping to have this back by. Be like, I'm really hoping to have this back in 3 weeks. Is that doable for you? And then let them know that what'll happen is after they read it and you get some notes back from them, you may want to do like one follow-up meeting where it's just like a chat where you can talk about any questions you had. And if they'd be open to that, you'll schedule it later after they finish the book. And you want to give them the initial pages and tell them, hey, here's the opening chapter. If you like it, then great, I'll give you more. But if you don't like it, just stop reading. Like it's not a good use of your time. If you're not connecting with it, if it's just not your book, that is okay. And that is helpful feedback to me too. Just tell me as soon as possible. And then I can go ahead and find a better suited reader for you. So you want to set these groundwork parameters for them. You're going to give them some really specific instructions, right? First and foremost, don't share the manuscript. I thought this was a given when I was starting out. It is not a given. My sister-in-law happily went and gave my book to multiple people. It was mortifying to me. It was the first time I'd done it. So I was like, oh, I need to learn. Tell people, don't share this with other people. Then tell them what you want them to do is mark it up, right? What you want is you want them to actually put notes on the manuscript about the parts that they like, right? Places that they put the manuscript down for the day, or if they get confused or lost or bored, all that type of stuff. Explain to them that like if you're giving them a paper copy, please write all over it. If you're doing it on the computer, yes, please. Your notes are helpful to me. And explain that you're not looking for like deep line edits, right? Like I don't need you to fix my punctuation. I don't need you to fix my grammar. I need you to pretend like this is a book that you picked up from the store and you're reading it and you're going through and you're like, oh my God, this part's so funny. I laughed out loud. Great. Tell me that you laughed out loud right there, because then I won't cut it out of the book. That's the type of information and instructions you want to give them. If you can, I strongly recommend giving a hard copy. The reason that is it is much, much easier for a person to ignore an email than it is a gigantic stack ream of paper on their bedstand, right? Additionally, we're trying to recreate the experience of a reader in a bookstore, right? And writing and reading on paper is different than writing and reading on the computer. So you want to give them a hard copy if you can. What's very important is for every beta reader, you want to give them a clean copy with no notes, because you don't want their ideas being tainted by somebody else's notes, right? So if you can do a hard copy, I think, in my opinion, that's the best way to do it. If you can't, that's okay. There's other ways to do it. You can just do digital copies. There are companies like betabooks.co where you can actually load your manuscript into it, invite beta readers to read it, and it kind of like gives them a platform. Yeah, I think that's what I want. Like an interface. It gives them an interface to go ahead and note the document. A good old Google Doc, a good old Word doc, heybeta.com. Those are companies that you may want to look at and look at sharing for digital copies. But again, what you want to tell them is please don't share this with anybody. And then just, how, if they're not familiar, which hopefully everybody's familiar with how to do notes on documents by now, but if they're not, you walk them through the process. Okay, so they go through, they read it, they meet your deadline, right? And what you want to do first and foremost is you want to say thank you. And one thing that I want you to consider doing is thinking about one question that you wanted an answer to, but don't tell the reader what that question is. And ask them after they're done reading. So for example, when I was doing the draft of the book that my sister-in-law shared around, I had some superpowers in that book, right? And I knew people were having a hard time understanding what one set of superpowers did, like how the magic system worked, right? So my question that I wanted an answer to, it did not tell the person that that's what I wanted an answer to, was, do you understand how this superpower works? Now, the reason I didn't tell them up front is because I didn't want them reading specifically only to find that answer, right? I wanted them to read it like a reader in a bookstore. And when it's a reader in a bookstore, you don't get to say, hey, do you understand this? That's what I want to know an answer to before you go into it, right? So I saved that as my final follow-up question. And when I met up with the person for, like a final chat and a thank you coffee and, oh, can we talk about this type of thing? That was the question I asked them was, oh, do you understand what this character, how their power works? First couple rounds of beta reads, no. Then when I did another round of beta reads and I got yes, 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 I was like, yes, I finally fixed it, right? So this is why beta reading is so helpful. You can know that something is broken, but you can't know if you fixed it, right? Until you have that objectivity. The other thing you want to do is you want to compile the notes. So typically speaking, you're going to get notes from several beta readers. And what you want to do is you want to start looking for commonalities of the notes, right? So like say you sent out to 3 people, get 3 manuscripts side by side and be like, woo, everybody has lots of words here in chapter 5. What's going on in chapter 5? And it turns out everybody absolutely loves it, or everybody got super confused and was like, I don't understand what's going on. When you see that type of thing, the notes compilation really helps right there for you. And this is part of the triangulation process. When you send out, I recommend you send out to 3 beta readers at a time. You will go through multiple rounds of beta reads. And the reason I recommend only sending out to 3 people at a time is because you don't want to burn too many fresh eyes, right? You only get objective feedback on that very first read through. And so what you want to do, sorry, my cat's knocking things off. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and give it to 3 people, all with the same deadline. They get the notes back, and that's when you want to start looking for commonalities, okay? If just one person hates something, doesn't mean anything, right? It means that like, oh, that person's 3rd grade teacher taught them that this usage of that word was wrong. Or it means that like that character reminds them of their ex, and then therefore they're going to hate that character no matter what, right? If one person is very excited or hates it a lot, that's really good feedback because you've invoked some sort of physical connection with that character, right? If you have 2 people who are saying the same thing, then you're like, oh, okay, is that what I want them to be saying, right? If that's what you want them to be saying, then great. But if that's not what you want them to be saying, then you need to be like, ooh, I'm having a little problem here. Like maybe my world building's a little wonky, or maybe the character's motivations aren't clear. If all 3 people are saying the same thing, then this is how it's playing. And the big question to ask during this triangulation process is that my intent as the writer? Is that how I wanted it to come across? If it is, great. It's fantastic validation. If it's not, then do you need to go through and change that? Like, is that something that you want to go ahead and adjust, So that's what you do when you're asking for beta readers, when you're on the writer side. But what if somebody asks you to be a beta reader, right? There are many things I have beta read that I should not have beta read. Oh my gosh, so many things. And it's because I didn't have good guidelines in for myself, and I didn't have good boundaries, and I wasn't respecting my time, right? And it's important to respect your time, especially as a writer, because you're going to have a lot of requests put upon you. So the first thing you want to do is, if somebody wants you to read for them, say, you know what? I will read the opening 10 pages, opening chapter, however long it is. And if I'm connecting to it, then I'll consider doing a full beta read for you. And now you're going to ask the questions because they probably haven't taken this class and don't know they're supposed to give you real specific instructions, right? So you're going to kind of steer this process if you need to. And you're going to say, hey, what's your deadline? If you can't meet the deadline, then just say no. There's nothing wrong with it. Additionally, do you want to invest your time and your brains in this, right? Like, is this the right project for you to read at this point in time? So, an example of when you may want to stop. I was asked to beta read a manuscript, and in the opening chapter, the main character's husband was dying of cancer. And my mom was dying of cancer during that point in time, right? So I was dealing with my sick mom, and this beta read comes through. Emotionally, it was just too much for me. There was no way I would be able to be objective about that particular manuscript at that point in time because of what I was going through personally. It would have been a disservice to my mental health and a disservice to the writer to try and go ahead and beta read that full manuscript for her. And so I said, hey, you know what? I'm not the right beta reader for you. If it is a person who you actually like their writing and generally you enjoy their concepts and everything, and you want to beta read, but you just can't meet the expectations, tell them. Be like, I love your work, but I can't do this right now. And I'm so, so sorry. Can you please put me in the next round of beta reads, or, ask me again? Like, please ask me again. Make it clear if this is something you want to do that you're available. If it's not something you want to do, polite ways to bow out, or, this isn't a good time for me. I'm not the right person to read this project for you. I can't meet your deadline. And thanks for considering me. It's okay to say no. I give you permission to say no. Protect your time, and invest in the people who you feel are worthy of investing in, and also who you feel like there's a reciprocal, energetic exchange in the relationship. So you're asked to beta read. You agree to beta read. You want to beta read. You start beta reading. What do? You have no business beta reading if you can't say what's going right in the manuscript. So the first thing you do is you look at what that writer is doing well. The writer needs to know what they are doing well so that it doesn't get cut out of the book. Also, every writer inherently is good at a couple of things, which means that they can strengthen a couple of things, right? So if they're really good at action and dialogue, maybe they need to work on world building and interiority, right? And so when you tell them what they're doing well as a writer, they should be able to like discern, okay, they say I'm doing dialogue really well, but they never say that I'm doing action scenes well. Maybe I need to look at that, right? Like, it's the writer's job to do some deduction there. The next thing you need to do is ask questions. You ask questions where things are starting to go awry. Like, I'm confused. I don't know who's talking here. I don't understand. I got lost. Like, we did a scene jump. I don't know what's happening. You ask questions because it is your job as a beta reader to let them know what the reader is thinking as they're reading it in the bookstore, right? And if they're thinking, what the hell's going on here? That is a very legitimate question to ask, right? And it's not your job to tell them how to fix it. It's just your job to tell them, I don't understand what's happening here. So your main jobs as a beta reader are to praise and to ask questions. Remember, it is the author's job to fix the manuscript. It is never your job to fix the manuscript. So that's why you ask questions and you don't write prescriptive feedback. The author has a very clear vision for what they want this story to be. And as a beta reader, you are letting them know if they are achieving their vision or if they're failing, and have room to bring that vision to better light, right? And so you are not a professional editor who is paid for this. You have not been asked to do line edits on this. You have been asked to give this a read and give the opinion and the feedback, right? It is then the author's job to take all of that and decide what they want to do with that information. They may want to fix it the way that you think it should be fixed. They may want to fix it a whole different way. You don't know, and that's not your job to know. All your job is to do is read, tell them what's going well, and ask questions when you get confused or don't understand what's happening. Helpful comments, things that you could write. Wow, ha, love this, exclamation points. I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm sick. This guy's the worst, this guy's the best. All of those things let the reader know, or let the writer know that you're very engaged in whatever's happening right there. Anytime you have a physical sensation, right? If you get goosebumps, if you start crying, if you want to throw up, the writer has done something very, very good because you are having a physical, emotional reaction and a real connection with these characters, right? So it is very important to make sure that that feedback is included. If you have what would be considered negative feedback. And I don't even consider it negative. I just consider this isn't working feedback quite yet, right? I'm lost or confused. This feels slow. I don't care. Like if you don't care about the character, nobody's going to want to keep turning the page, right? Why is this here? You already said that. Why is she doing that? Those are sample types of feedback that let the writer know what's going on in the reader's mind, right? This is an example of the same pages. One on the left is beta reader markup. The one on the right is professional editor markup. So see on the beta reader markup, we've got smiley faces, we've got a couple of handwritten notes, that type of thing. But it's pretty light, right? There's like on a beta read, you may not have something on every single page either, right? You may have something every third page. So compared to a professional editor's markup where they are offering solutions, they're explaining why things are broken. It's an educational collaborative experience, right? So what you're going for is the version on the left here. How do you know if it was a good beta reader fit? If you're eager to get back to writing after the whole after they get the feedback to you, you have new insights into your manuscript. Their enthusiasm for the project gives you energy, right? So like when we've been in a project for a long time, we can get really tired of it. But when somebody reads it and they just have those big eyes and they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited, keep going. That gives you energy. And that's how we stay in this game for the long haul, right? So all of those are good signs it was a good beta reader fit. It is not always going to be a good beta reader fit. If you feel worse about your work when you get through this process, don't ask that person to beta read again. If they give you very few notes or copious unhelpful notes, not a good use of your time or a good use of their time. And then also if they're giving you prescriptive notes that aren't right for your genre. So if they're trying to tell you how to fix the manuscript, they didn't understand the assignment. Like you aren't asking them to tell you how to fix it. You're asking them to tell you how it looks, right? Like it's the difference between saying, ooh, that outfit is not the most flattering versus you need to go ahead and change into this outfit and put these shoes on and blah, 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 right? Two very different things. If it's not a great experience, you can bow out of it. And here's some words to help you bow out of it if you need to. So if you realize that this isn't working out the way you want to and they still have the manuscript, you can just pause the project, stop the project at any time and say, thank you so much for the time you've invested. I really appreciate it. I'm moving on to the next stage of the project and I no longer need additional feedback. You can shred your copy or I'll pick it up on such and such a date, or please delete the file. It gives me peace of mind to know that old versions aren't floating around. Thanks again. Okay. It's okay to break up with beta readers. It is okay. It is your career. It is your book. You take ownership. And if somebody's taking too long and if it's just holding you back, you're the one who decides how fast this career goes. So take ownership, right? It's all back to I am a writer. Own the power of you are the writer. You are the person deciding how this project moves forward. The thing to remember when looking for beta readers is people want you to succeed, right? Like they think it is so cool that we are out here living our dreams. They think it's so great to be like the secret inside behind the scenes person. They are honored to be asked. They love being part of the inside scoop. And all you have to do is be brave enough to ask them and give them the chance to support you, right? This is how you start building loyal, long time lifetime readers, right? Is you start letting people in on your whole creative process. And yes, it's big and it's a huge step to be celebrated and it can feel overwhelming and a little bit scary, but every writer does it. And if you want your book to be out in the public, this is a great place to start getting ready to share your work with others. So you can totally do this. I believe in you. And if you want to know more about what I do, you can reach me at thececoaches.com. Email me, Jessica at thececoaches.com. We're on Instagram at the CE Coaches. We're on LinkedIn, just at my name, Jessica Conoley. And if you have any questions about beta readers, just tag me on Instagram or get a hold of me. But we appreciate you so much, and everybody have a great day.